Drink beer. Think beer. You're listening to Brew Bloods.
You could learn a lot about a woman by getting smashed with her. That from noted singer-songwriter Tom Waits. Welcome to episode 102 of Brew Bloods.
That's very masculine of you.
This is our third or fourth attempt to record this episode.
Yeah, it is, and this is the first time we've actually been allowed to record inside.
It is. It is.
Normally, between our two wives, they either kick us out to the decks or the patio, or we have to go to some other location that is also outside.
But your wife is away at doing something called work.
Yeah.
And my wife is away doing something called work. So here we are.
So we're allowed to be indoors.
We're allowed to bump.
So it's a one-time only thing.
Yeah, we're allowed to bump our uglies together to make a podcast.
Well, that too. That's a common thing, though.
So what we wanted to talk about the previous three times and this time was the Vice show called Beerland. And if you're not familiar
We've
with the
rehearsed
show,
the script several times at this point.
And it was a script from the beginning.
Right.
We have Oscar Award-winning screenwriters, or pod writers, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
To write this show. And it's a show from Vice, and if you're not familiar with Vice, Vice is started out as a journalistic website, very raw reporting, kind of, I don't know if it's gonzo reporting quite,
right.
But it's very raw, edgy. I don't even know if in your face is the right word, but they weren't afraid to tackle the tough concepts.
Yeah, they have no limits, for sure.
Yeah.
That's not only Showtime that has no limits. They also have no limits.
And they started out there. I think their first show was the Vice News documentary series. I think it was weekly, like 8 or 10 episodes every year on HBO.
Yeah, I was going to say they also had like a special 3 or 4 part series on HBO about, I can't remember what it was, but they've had a couple of different HBO specials. Yeah.
And then now they have Vice News, which I don't know if it's every night or if it's weekly. I'm not sure.
Or as Mark calls it, fake news.
Exactly. And then they decided, I guess it was last year or the year before, they decided to start Viceland, which is a channel that you can get on most digital platforms. Sling used to be on PSView, but it's not anymore, at least not right now, because they're part of Viacom.
Right.
You can get it on Dish, I know, maybe DirecTV. I don't really know.
Hulu Live has it.
Hulu Live, yeah.
Yeah, there's a few.
So you can find it out there, or if you want to, you can go to their website and watch websites there. Or watch websites, watch episodes there.
Yeah.
They do have other shows.
Do you like websites, Mark?
I do like websites. There's Michael K. Williams' show that explores the inner cities of various countries, which is really interesting.
Does Michael W. Smith have a show?
I don't know. Maybe that'll be the sequel series.
It's all Michaels with the first and last and middle initial.
Michael Forbes.
Yeah, exactly.
Michael Jackson, The Untold Tales.
Right.
There's another interesting show in there called Jungle Town, I think, that they advertise every freaking commercial break. I don't know which platform you're watching it on, but on Sling, they advertise the show Jungle Town on every single episode break.
I was watching it on Hulu Live, and they advertised the fact that Carl's Jr. is coming out with a burger with a rib on top of it.
So you got that every commercial break.
Yeah, exactly.
I also got...
Which, oddly enough, we just watched Shark Tank and saw the guys who sold the ribs to Carl's Jr., so it's come full circle for me.
The other commercial they would show every single commercial break across all 6 episodes of Beerland was the upcoming Tupac Shakur biopic, All Eyes with a Z on Me, on June 16th.
Okay.
So, and I don't know how it is again on Hulu, but on Sling, the show would be at a normal volume, and then the commercials will be about 20 decibels louder.
Fortunately, it was pretty balanced on Hulu.
Maybe it's just
I'll give Hulu that credit.
So, yeah, Vice has got, they're all reality shows. When I say reality shows, I don't mean like Project Runway or up until Beerland, I should say. They're all typically sort of documentary.
It's not like the Brew Bloods reality show where Mark's having sex with random women behind a couch.
Exactly.
So it's not that kind of thing. Like Road Rules and Real World. Yes. It's not like that.
Yeah, that's exactly how the show goes. Our reality show.
That's pretty much the podcast behind the scenes.
Exactly.
He's the Daisy Fuentes of Brew Bloods.
And part of the game show is you have to guess which last call casualty I'm making it with.
Exactly. Yes.
So Viceland...
He just pops his head up, and it's bobbing, and you have to decide.
Exactly. I'm sure my wife really appreciates this line of humor. I'm sure
it's an open marriage. She's fine.
Yeah. She knows what sweet sweet love we make. Mm-hmm. We're actually having sex as we do the show right now.
Of course. And, that's part of the show, too. That's bonus features.
So Viceland is, up until now, as far as I know, I could be wrong, but they haven't done any competition shows. Everything's been documentary-esque reality shows.
I think that's true, yeah.
And they decided, I guess, to get in bed with AB InBev and do Beerland, which is a show that is sort of a game show. And we'll get into the details later, but Beerland comes from Golden Road Brewing owner Meg Gill, who
claims she's not AB InBev.
She's a bit of a controversial figure. She sold AB InBev to
she didn't sell
Golden
AB
Road
InBev,
to AB InBev in 2015, and yet as recent as 2 to 3 weeks ago, I think she's from Oakland. She moved to Los Angeles to start the brewery, and now she's back in Oakland, wanting to start a beer garden. And she was there for a Press the Flesh event, and with the people of Oakland on 40th Street, where she wants to start this thing. And rather than the warm welcome, I think she was expecting, she got protests.
You guess? Yeah,
I guess. And 40th, I guess. And she got protests because apparently every other business on that street is locally owned, not owned by some giant conglomerate. And on top of that, there were other complaints such as parking spaces. Parking is at a premium in Oakland.
Right. Oh, it definitely is.
And she and Golden Road and AB InBev by extension wanted 5 parking spaces to themselves, tax-free. So I guess no meters on that street as well. And so they protested about that. And then recently, apparently Golden Road in Los Angeles lost some license when a city inspector came out. We're also having Thundercast now, by the way.
Yeah,
but
apparently.
Yeah, they came out, and apparently their wastewater disposal was not up to snuff. And so they lost some sort of wastewater certification, and so people were also protesting about that.
So have you been to Oakland?
I know. I've never been to Oakland at all. I haven't been to the Bay Area at all.
Okay. I've been to Oakland once. We went to San Francisco for a trip, and then I spent one day hanging out with our good break room friend, Felipe 13, over on the Oakland side. And, I would say parking is quite a bitch over there. Yeah. So if they want to have 5 spots, that's going to be a premium.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe it'll, I don't know, maybe it'll calm down at some point. But, yeah, right now, no, it's pretty much a premium. Yeah,
I will say that Meg Gill, I didn't know much about her up until the show, and so I looked up her Wikipedia, the common founts of information. And it totally reads like it was written by Meg or some lackey of hers.
Right.
It says, in just a few short years, Meg has created partnerships with major retailers, including Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, and Costco. Through targeted distribution of high-quality fresh beer and community partnerships, Golden Road Brewing hopes to grow craft share in its local market while becoming a symbol of the city of L.A.
It's just high-quality craft beer. We'll see.
Yeah, it's very, very hacky.
It is, yeah. And, amongst the review of the show today, we also have the review of one Golden Road beer that we were actually able to get our hands on.
Yeah, so how familiar are you with Golden Road's beers?
I'm not familiar with them at all. I didn't even know we had it here.
I didn't either. I can't say I've ever seen one in stores.
The fact that the show existed made me go and look for a beer just to say, okay, it's AB InBev. They probably distribute here because for some reason, like we've mentioned several times, Dallas tends to get most everybody from the West and East Coast and a lot of Central Coast too. Central area as well. It's interesting that we get something from everywhere. It's kind of Dallas is in a sweet spot for a lot of that. Beyond beer, I mean, we get Shake Shack, we get In-N-Out, we get Five Guys, we get is there something cool on the East Coast, something cool on the West Coast? We kind of we're like in the middle area where they're we'll just go ahead and blanket it all in DFW.
Yeah, exactly. Which is nice.
It is. That is one big advantage of being here.
Yeah, we're in a food and beverage sweet spot in a lot of ways.
We really are, yes.
And we have the best barbecue.
Take
that, Memphis. Take that, St. Louis.
Yeah. Screw you, Memphis.
So I'm also not familiar with it, and I know you managed to find it at one local regional store called Total Wine.
Right. Very local, extremely local. They only had one item from Golden Road.
Did you go there seeking out just that beer? And did you call
I went there seeking out anything from Golden Road.
That's what I mean. So you went there specifically to Total Wine, and you went there for the Wolf Among Weeds IPA, or that's what you managed to get.
I didn't go there for that, but yeah, that's what I ended up with.
And we should note that this beer on Rate Beer gets a 95 overall, 77 in style. Kind of a discrepancy there.
Yeah, it actually gets pretty good reviews overall. Yeah, and again, I would have thought the fact that it's distributed here, even though it's an AB InBev product, much like Goose Island and other things, I would have thought it would have had a little more notoriety for being that highly rated.
Yeah,
I just don't hear about it.
But even prior to the AB InBev purchase, I can't recall anybody ever talking about them.
They may have not been around here prior to that.
Yeah, true.
But I don't know.
Even since then, you still hear people talking about Goose Island.
Right.
So it makes me think that maybe, I don't want to speak ill of Meg Gill to make a rhyme.
Ill of Meg Gill.
Just in time. Yeah. But I don't know her, but maybe it was a brewery that was built to be sold. Much like some around here, may have been built to be sold. I don't want to. Maybe not. Maybe she just saw an opportunity to get a truckload of cash dumped on her front lawn and took it. Which I can't say that I necessarily blame her either.
No, I don't blame her either.
So, what do you think of this Wolf Among the Weeds IPA? It has an ABV of 8%, and I don't see the IBU on here, so I don't know what it is. But it's
I was looking for that too. I mean, even Untapped gives it a 3.9.
Yeah,
that's pretty high. I don't see an IBU anywhere, but it's a little bit dank. That's kind of how those West Coast IPAs go.
A little bit sweet. It is. I will give it to Meg Gill's credit, as you'll find out in Beerland. It's clear. Very clear.
Yeah,
it's very clear.
It's clear and it's light.
It is light. It's a little bit hoppy, a little bit bitter.
It looks a little bit like if you have a dehydrated urine stream.
Exactly.
Yeah,
my frequent comparison model.
Right.
I think it's really well balanced for an IPA.
Right.
Conversely, I would say in this beer, there's nothing that really just blows my skirt up and just says, "Take me now."
What does blow your skirt up? Because we've been asking that for weeks.
Air, first of all. That frequently blows my skirt up.
Sure.
Well, like, other outstanding IPAs like Heady Topper or Pliny, of course.
Yeah, sure.
Locally, the Vertigo from Double Ray, I like a lot in that category. The Green Flash.
For me, the Mosaic does it.
Okay, Mosaic. I would say the Green Flash IPA, I think, is a stellar example of a really good standard issue West Coast IPA.
Well, especially the Oak Mosaic really blows it up.
Well, yes, Oak Mosaic, too.
Yeah.
That does more than blow my skirt up. Blows a lot of other things, too.
Hey, now. Yeah, but it's a very drinkable, easy IPA. It's a little bit dank, but not too much. I mean, like, if you were going to introduce somebody to IPAs, that's probably not a horrible entry point.
Yeah.
It's a nice... It's an Imperial, but it's a single, so it's not too overly hoppy. It's got... The problem with it to me is it doesn't have much outside of the dank, hoppy flavor.
Yeah,
that's pretty much what it has. Like this is a standard, easy drinking West Coast IPA.
Yeah,
and if that's what you're looking for, which I don't mind that, it would work fine. But
it just reads to me like, hey, let's make a West Coast IPA. Let's tick some boxes off.
Yeah, that's true. And in fairness, they're about as West Coast as you can get. I mean, being in like the coast of LA,
and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just also not like, wow, that blew me away.
No, it doesn't blow you away, but I think it's a good representation for the generic West Coast IPA. How's that?
It's a good representation for the style, for sure.
Yeah.
It's just not the best. It's not world class.
If someone wanted a standard West Coast IPA and you gave them that, they would get it.
Yeah.
They would get the idea of what that is. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. For me, I'd give this beer probably somewhere between 3.75 and 4. It's not awesome, but, does the job.
Yeah, I'd probably give it 4.25 just because I love the style.
Right.
I'm a little bit biased, I'll admit it.
You are a little bit biased.
I like that style a lot.
You are fake news.
I am. I'm real news about that style. I'm fake neutral because I do like that style.
So, we forgot to talk about in Oakland, the other point to go back and forth as we are wont to do.
Sure.
The other thing that's controversial about her while she was talking to people was the Oakland newspaper, I'm drawing a blank on the name right now.
OaklandNews.com?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So she used the phrase when people were confronting her about being part of AB InBev that it's fake news, that she's a partnered with AB InBev.
Right.
And he said, well, it wasn't just like she said this by mistake one time.
Right.
She said this many times to many patrons in the area that it's fake news.
Which seems strange as someone who watched all of Viceland, all of the Beerland shows on Viceland. She doesn't seem like someone that would have issued that willy-nilly.
Yeah, I agree. And
I mean, just based on her personality.
Plus, it is a matter of public record that they sold themselves to AB InBev in 2015. Right.
And that calling things fake news is much BS.
And on her Wikipedia page, which she obviously wrote herself, it even says they are a subsidiary of Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah.
So you can't say, like, I feel like somewhat maybe she's faced some undue criticism for kind of the bro culture that sometimes is centered in the beer world. Some of those dude bros that love Nickelback and they want to mansplain things. Like, I feel like maybe she gets some criticism because of that. But then conversely, when you go, I feel like she's drawing criticisms, and rightfully so, for saying that it's fake news.
I'm not going to say she doesn't get that, but at the same time, I'd like to question where you get that source, because calling it fake news doesn't matter if she's a man or a woman.
No, I'm saying
I don't think that has anything to do with this.
I'm saying other things I've seen on Reddit, for instance.
Oh, okay.
Outside of the fake news points, I'm saying for fake news, for saying it's fake news, she absolutely deserves any criticism she gets.
Right.
Because that's just stupid.
That's a very Trump-esque thing to say, and it doesn't make a lot of sense.
It's very Orwellian. Like,
right.
It's just it's stupid. It's really stupid, and she deserves every bit of criticism she gets for that.
Yeah.
Outside of that, for selling out, okay, she deserves some criticism.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I feel like some of it. I feel like there's overly negative internet bias. No surprise.
Yeah.
That she gets, and some of it that I've seen on Reddit is a little bit comes off as kind of sexist. No surprise.
Well, it's a sexist industry in a lot of ways.
And obviously, we don't know Meg Gill. I don't know what kind of person she is, but she seems like a perfectly nice person.
She may be awesome, or she may be an ass. I don't know.
I don't know either. But
from the
just from that one thing, I think she deserves a lot of criticism.
From the show, she doesn't seem to be an ass, but you never know.
Yeah.
She totally could be. That's also an edited persona.
Yeah. So speaking of edited persona, we're going to go sim to stern on that one. All 6 episodes after this.
Hey guys, Josh here, just to let you know, to remind you, to get the word out, to put it in your brain, that no matter when you're listening to this podcast, Thursday is right around the corner. What's so significant about Thursday? Well, at Thursday at noon, you get to tune in and listen live to Liquid Lunch. Join myself and Catherine Contreras from She's Crafty Podcast as we join forces to bring you Texas's live midday craft beer show. It's the only one like it out there in the entire world. We're live. We take your calls at 713-678-0070. We have on the best guests in the craft beer world from the state of Texas and beyond, and it's just a fun time. You'll hear what you eating, what you drinking. We'll get the latest in news and craft beer goings-ons, promotions of all the latest happenings, and you can be a part of the show with us each and every Thursday at noon. LiquidLunchShow.com is where we're located. Also on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, streaming live video and audio. Your choice. Come join the party. Kick off the weekend, Thursday at noon. LiquidLunchShow.com. That's Liquid Lunch. We'll see you there.
Hooray for beer!
Something tells me I should open the fridge. Oh, here we go. Oh, this is cool. Beer brings people together because there are so many varieties.
Brewing is like going to church.
I love beer so much.
Cheers.
We brew to see their faces when they have that aha moment.
Wow, that is a damn good beer.
For such a small place, the beer is definitely the driving force of all of it.
Part of my journey was to taste amazing beers, but also learn about the people behind it. I think we need another beer. You're absolutely right. Everybody cheers! The things I'll do for beer.
So, Beerland, a new show from Vice.
That is a show on Vice.
And it just ended this past Friday. Or
It did.
Thursday night. They had 6 episodes. Every episode focused on 1 to 3 homebrewers. It's supposed to be a competition show.
Sometimes one, yes.
Sometimes 1. Several. It seemed like, I think it started with New Mexico, New York were 3. Northern California was 2.
Denver was at least 2, if not 3.
Colorado
I think it was at least
3.
2.
Hawaii was then 1.
Sorry, Denver. Colorado. It was really Denver, but yeah, Colorado.
Which I have to question, when it comes to Hawaii, I realize that the craft beer scene there is not as big as it is in every other state.
It's not big at all.
But surely there is at least one more homebrewer that could be found on one of the islands in Hawaii. Surely.
Don't call me Shirley.
Shut up. It sounds like all they did was like, hey, let's take a vacation to Oahu, and we found these guys.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, so every episode is essentially focused on, we want to find one person from each region that we pick out of a group that makes an awesome beer, and AB InBev, a.k.a. Golden Road, is going to make and distribute that beer.
You're fake news.
And they went from New Mexico to New York, Northern California, Colorado, and the aforementioned Hawaii, and then the finale ends up at Golden Road Brewing in Los Angeles.
I have a question for you originally to start this off.
I might have an answer.
Why those places? Because
I don't know.
Colorado, I understand. Northern California, I understand.
Yeah.
Why Hawaii over like maybe Oregon? Somewhere that's like known for beer culture.
Maybe because people don't think about Hawaii when it comes to craft beer.
And should they versus Oregon?
Well, I agree.
It's not even close.
And New Mexico,
New Mexico's pretty random too.
I mean, what is New York? I understand.
Yeah, sure.
But I guess maybe they were trying to mix maybe they're trying to save, not blow some of their wad, all their wad for season 1.
Yeah,
maybe
sure.
They're trying to save some of it for season 2 and 3. Maybe.
I guess that makes sense, yeah.
I mean, why didn't they include Austin, for instance, or Dallas, or I don't know. You could say a number of places.
Yeah, I still don't think people think of Texas as like a craft brew hub.
I think they think of Austin. They don't
even
think
though
of
it's
Dallas
more,
necessarily.
but yeah. Although, in fairness, we've talked about this before. Should they? I kind of think Dallas and
I think Dallas
maybe
is-
even Houston are better than Austin.
I don't know about Houston, but I think Dallas has surpassed Austin.
You don't think Yellow Rose is way better than anything in Austin?
Well, yeah, but I'm saying I guess it depends on the
Buried Hatchet Stout better than anything in Austin?
The Houston cast.
My point is though, I'm just saying I don't think people think of Texas as being
Right.
one of those premier. But for the first season, I don't know. I think you need to include Oregon if you're going to include those other ones.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree on that. Or
Michigan. Michigan has a shitload of,
Yeah, I would agree.
I know they have major breweries, but the home brewers are going to be inspired by that.
one of the beer signatories.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that of all these, Colorado was their beer signatory for this season.
Yeah, sure.
And I would have to guess they're probably planning on doing more than one season.
Yeah, true. So Oregon and Michigan got to be in the mix. In the
I
next
would
couple of
hope
seasons.
so. Yeah. So every episode, essentially, it seems like they wanted to be a blend of Bourdain's No Reservations. What the hell is it called now?
Now it's Parts Unknown.
Parts Unknown.
Yeah.
Seems like it wants to be a blend of Parts Unknown and a game show like Project Runaway or Top Chef.
Yeah, sure.
But about craft beer. And I think that it does a decent job with the first part of that premise, not a great job with the second part of that premise.
So the Parts Unknown part, you think they do a good job?
I think they do an okay job. I don't think they do.
I would say okay. I wouldn't say good.
That's
They do
what I'm
an
saying.
okay.
I think they do an okay. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. They do an okay job.
Yeah.
I think they do an okay job. I think they do a poor job with the second part of that premise of craft beer.
Which, in fairness, the second part's the primary.
Exactly. Which,
Yeah.
my wife. I was talking to my wife about this, and she watched a couple of episodes.
Ooh,
with
he's
me.
got a wife. Look at
My
this guy.
wife.
He's got a house and a patio and a wife. Look at this guy.
I know. You want to see this contract, don't you?
I wish.
So she said because she heard after our 3 recordings last week, she heard much of our criticism because we have like no soundproofing in our house at all.
Sure.
She's like, I don't understand why you guys were criticizing it so much. And I was like, well, beer nerds are probably going to be the primary, at least the first audience to this show.
Yeah.
And so it should focus a little more on, not the entirety, but a little more focus on beer, attention to the beer and the product that's being produced that you're judging on. And I felt like,
I think Meg was very lacking on that.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that, especially when it came to more than one homebrewer, like there was always just like, that's a good beer.
Yeah.
The only criticism across several episodes that I think we heard was, especially the first guy, there was a guy named Kale in New Mexico that she complained about his Pilsner not being filtered.
Right.
And it's like, well, the guy has a small rig setup. I mean, what do you expect?
You have him, then you had the guy that had yeast in a log, and then you had the woman that had a Mexico flair to her stuff, and then the Hawaiian coconut porter. I'm missing one of them. I don't remember which one I'm missing. But.
Well, there was the Northern California guys in the Santa Cruz Mountains.
That's one I'm missing.
Nick and Seamus with their all-natural strawberry beer.
And all of those criticisms were very weak.
Very weak.
Like, I'm not saying she needs to destroy everyone. It's fair enough. You don't need to do that. But at the same time, give true critiques of what a brewery would give if she was creating a new beer at Golden Road.
And conversely, sometimes the reasons she selected those homebrewers were just mystifying as well. So
I agree.
For instance, there was in New York City, the guy that, first of all, the 3 contestants were an amateur hockey player, Chuck, and his friend, who made a black and red IPA.
Right.
And they barely gave them any acknowledgement. They were like, we're at a hockey game. Here's some beer. Oh, look, there's that guy's dick in a shower. and we're moving on.
Yep.
Like, she never went back to them at all. There was this
Right.
guy, Daly, in Brooklyn, and we should probably say this a long time ago. Spoiler alert, but you know, there's going to be some
who
results in
cares?
there.
Yeah.
But this is a guy who claims to be an anarchist.
Self-proclaimed anarchist.
Self-proclaimed
yeah.
anarchist, but then wants to somehow be distributed by AB InBev,
Right.
which is just mystifying.
Yeah, that's fake news. though.
And
It's
he
called the
brews,
Road.
all of his beers are brewed with yeast, well, literally a log that he found in the park next to his house.
Right.
So it sits in the batch while it's fermenting.
And she
then
picked
there's-
him.
She did, commercially
from that
over
one.
Ashley,
Yeah.
also from New York City, that she made a beer called Everything Bagel. It's an extra special bitter, which, by the way, they didn't even tell you what style of beer she was making. It was just called Everything Bagel.
Yeah.
And Meg seemed blown away by the fact that it actually tasted like a bagel.
Right.
But yet that she went and picked Daly, who was a guy who probably, well, maybe it might have been a damn good beer. But
Yeah.
there was a lot of luck involved with that, as there is with a lot of beer, but a lot of it's science too. As
Yeah,
as
sure.
William said,
Yeah.
it's equal parts science and art.
Right.
I mean, his beer may have been good, but when you think about scaling it up to production level, maybe they can scrape some yeast from that wood, but what other components does that log lend to the beer?
Right.
It's for flavor, you know?
Yeah,
It's not like
exactly,
they can use a gigantor ray and scale up the log, you know? I was just mystified by that choice.
Yeah, I agree.
And then-
yeah, you can't scale it.
And then in Northern California, there was Rebecca, who was a scientist, who started a homebrew club called Queers Making Beers. She made a Kolsch. And then there was Nick and Seamus that lived up in the Santa Cruz Mountains. They had an awesome homebrewer set up with their strawberry beer.
Which apparently means a lot to her.
Apparently
To
that
an
means
awesome homebrewing
that means
setup.
more because her primary criticism of Rebecca in Berkeley was that she was disorganized.
Right.
And she seemed to love her Kolsch. So I
Yep.
don't understand the basis upon which she was judging these beers.
I thought it was all based on the beer, not ancillary factors.
Yeah, it didn't make much sense. I mean, Colorado understood it more. That was Jessica, she's the one that made beer with Latino ingredients.
I understood it more, but she also quite enjoyed the Ginger Twins beer.
She did, but I also feel like she underserviced them at the same time.
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
And I felt like a lot of the episodes were weighted too much towards the ultimate victor.
Yeah. Well, plus at the end of it, she says she picked her. She's like, yeah, we need more women and, having a Latina influence. That's great in the beer industry. I'm not disagreeing with that, but at the same time, is that really the ultimate reason to pick that beer? Like, it's supposed to be about what beer tastes the best, right?
I would assume
that's
the
my
premise.
assumption. Yeah,
I would assume the premise because that's the.
It's perfectly fine if that's who you end up with, and you say that's the best one, but
because
that's not what she said.
Is the beer? Is it more about the story or is it more about the product?
Right.
Every other, like your Project Runways, your Top Chefs, it's always about the product. It's not about the story.
Right.
The story is an afterthought. It's a bonus.
Yeah, exactly.
So I question: was she thinking about the product or was she thinking about the story behind it for marketing purposes?
Right.
I mean, marketing
She
is
seemed to be
important
thinking about the story.
But a lot of times, products will trump marketing. The story behind it,
Right.
It's great if the story works out, but it seemed like marketing was more front of mind.
Yeah, I agree.
So, and the other thing was, I appreciated the fact that overall that every episode she tried to drop a little education like we used to try to do on the show.
Yeah, sure.
That's nice. But again, going back to the beer stuff, she would go to art museums and parties and clubs and bars and all that and show a lot more of the city than she would focus on the beer.
Right.
And she never... It's almost like the beer was a lot of times an afterthought. And we never got the story behind a beer. We never got the story of, like, why did they make this beer? What ingredients went in this beer? And I'm not asking for exhaustive detail. Sure. But on the Brewdog show, at least...
Right.
They would at least tell you, like, they would throw up a chyron that would show, here's what we're putting in this beer for this city.
Yeah, I mean, in Colorado, they did a little bit because, she said she's from Mexico.
A little bit.
Brought some heritage and all that kind of stuff. I get that. But yeah, a lot of times, no, they didn't.
I felt like it went a little bit better, got a little bit better as time went on. But
right.
And I know, like, this is probably Meg's first broadcasting job. I get that. So it's growing into the job. Much like our show, like, it took us a while to find our way, and it may grow into a great show.
It's still not that great,
But I also would not condemn anybody for hating our very first episode either. Our first 10 episodes, or our first 100 episodes,
or this one, really,
or this one. Yeah,
yeah. I totally agree.
So all that led up to the finale, which was in Los Angeles, and that ended up with.
I'm gonna go ahead and give an overall review and say, finale, quite boring.
Yeah, did they even they got Andy from New Mexico,
Right.
who looks like he's always so beaten.
Yeah, it is.
He's like this 18-year-old kid who looks like Paul Dano, like a younger version of Paul Dano.
True, yeah.
He looks like he's always beaten down. They took Daly from Brooklyn, the anarchist, self-proclaimed anarchist. They took Nick and Seamus from Northern California.
Yep.
They took Jessica from Colorado, who made the Latino
That's the Latino beer, yep.
They took the one brewing team from Hawaii.
Yeah, what are you going to do? The coconut porter,
Oahu,
yeah.
The coconut Belgian blonde.
Oh, sorry, porter.
Yeah.
Yeah, Belgian blonde, yeah.
And they flew them all to Los Angeles at the Golden Road Brewing, and the entire last episode focused on the judging competition.
The last episode was all the judges and then a bunch of people who were at Golden Road tasting it and talking about it.
A bunch of randos. It was not unlike the setup at a lot of the Top Chef events where they have restaurant wars, and you have a bunch of randos coming in to taste the food, and you have the judges giving the ultimate verdicts.
I don't care about randos, though. That's my whole thing.
Except in the end, the only one that mattered was Meg's decision.
Right.
She got input from all these people, but so her panel of beer judges beside herself was Tito from Dope and Dank. Never heard of him.
Nope.
Marina, a professional beer tender from Los Angeles.
Nope.
And Liam, who's a brewer at Golden Road Brewing.
Sure.
Now, I will say...
whatever she wants to pick for that. That's fine.
That's fine. Yeah. Whatever. I will say, was it just me or the fact that Liam was like, oh, he's from Australia. G'day, mate. Crocodile, throw shrimp on the bobby.
A lot of shrimps on the bobby,
He used to be an opera singer, mate.
Yeah.
And he acted all shy when Meg was like, oh, why don't you sing us something? And he had to sing. That seemed like a total ham-fisted produced moment.
It was stupid, yeah.
And then conversely, when Daly comes out later and is like, oh, by the way, I'm an opera singer too, and then they throw out some, I don't know, some Puccini or whatever.
Yeah.
It just seemed totally like an unnecessary. I mean, if I were the non-cynical viewer that I am, maybe I would appreciate it more. But it seemed totally ham-fisted.
Yeah, and to me, they didn't really offer... A lot of their critique didn't have much to do with the beer. Again, that was my other problem. Like, a lot of it was, I really respect where you came from. I really respect who this was that did this.
I would say, conversely, there wasn't much critique.
Yeah.
There was a lot of pleasantries.
But I'm just saying, what they considered critique.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what it was. Like, I really respect your origin. I really respect this and that, which is fine. Craft beer, if you want to say it needs to be more diverse, I'm not going to argue with you.
Yeah.
Probably does. But at the same time, that's not really the point of the show, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I thought the point of the show was, let's go to all these locations, find the best beer, put all the best beers from all those locations together, and then say, this is the best beer of the best.
Right.
And that's what we're going to brew. Not, this happens to be the best beer of the most diverse person we could pick up here, which, again, I'm not anti having a diverse person.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying. But that's not really, to me, that kind of negates the point of the show. Like, it's supposed to be about, like you said, let's taste these 5 beers. Meg should be able to be blindfolded, taste 5 beers, and say, this is the best one.
Yeah.
Because it's the best beer. That's what we're doing here, right? I don't know.
No, I agree.
That's one of my biggest problems with the show.
There was very little criticism. And
very many extra factors factored into the show, and that annoyed me.
And frankly, I hate to keep going back to Top Chef, or Project Runway, they may praise them, but they also offer critique. And when you get into this field, you have to realize, think about the BJCP, think about all the festivals where they do judgings. It's part of the game.
Sure.
And so I understand it's hard. It's probably very difficult to criticize somebody's product to their face, but that's part of the format. That's part of the show.
Yeah, I totally agree.
They should have at least offered something. Maybe not about every beer. There may have been some just standouts there, absolute standouts.
Sure.
But the only one that they really offered any criticism about was, I think it was Andy's beer for not being hoppy enough.
Yeah.
Or something. And then, Meg even says at one point that she beat up Andy so much that they had to go to some dude who was at the brewery every day at Golden Road every single day to offer him praise.
Yeah,
so
I remember that, yeah.
Where is this criticism?
And who's this guy?
All end up on the criticism?
Who's this rando that just shows up to drink Golden Road beer every day?
So where's the criticism? Did it all end up in the cutting room floor?
Apparently.
Why? I mean, because frankly, I've learned a lot through watching Top Chef. I've learned a lot about recipes, about what they should not be.
Sure.
Sometimes you learn through negativity.
Yep.
Through criticism, construction. It doesn't have to be like Simon Cowell and beating you up verbally. But you can be constructive at the same time and not be insulting. And there was none of that here.
I agree.
And at the end, so the last moments where Meg consults, every beer they take a rando praiseworthy comment from the crowd.
Yeah.
And then the last minute was Meg conferring with her panel and getting
Who all had different answers.
Who all had exactly.
Yeah.
All had different opinions. They all liked a different beer.
Right.
And then she just like, all right, I'm going to take. None of them said. Did any of them say Jessica?
No, she just picked Jessica.
She just picked
Yep.
Jessica. Without anybody else liking that.
Yep. Other people mentioned it, during their critique and saying, yeah, it's pretty interesting and has some different flavors and all that. Which again, it was all like 100% positive critique. It wasn't really like, this kind of sucks here, Which to me, I really think this show should be more like that. Like, you really need to step your game up here. You need to step your game up here. Not, it's not clear enough, so I don't like it. Or
don't be so disorganized.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
Can be fixed.
Yeah. So, what would you say your overall rating of the show is? Will you watch season 2?
Well, that's really the ultimate question. Will I keep watching? Yeah, I'll watch it again just to see how it evolves, see if it gets better.
Me too.
Because there's definitely room to grow. Like, Meg is very dry, both tonally, which I think she could use some emphasis, and she has a very dry wit.
I think Meg has potential.
I think she has potential.
She's not there yet, though.
She just needs to go to inflection school.
Right.
And, take some broadcasting classes. I mean, she's got enough money. She could probably take the time to take some. Go learn with Ken Brockman or whatever.
True, yeah.
And I think it's interesting. I think it's got potential. I think.
Me too.
I think it's kind of low energy. I think it needs a little bit more energy. A little bit attention to the beer nerd.
I think you told me it's very Jeb Bush.
Exactly. Please clap.
Yeah.
And, we don't need exhaustive detail of stuff, but get a little more nerdy about it.
Yeah.
And, Meg needs to talk about, when she's tasting a beer, she needs to talk about what is she tasting, other than just, it's good.
See, that's my biggest critique, too, is this is a show that is for beer nerds. Like, your wife, my wife, they're not going to watch this show.
Yeah.
People don't give a shit about beer.
Yeah.
They're not going to watch it. So they seem to try to kind of trend away from being too beer nerdy.
Yeah.
But I kind of think they should embrace that because that's who's going to watch it.
I think they should walk the line. Like, do city stuff, cultural stuff. That's fine.
Yeah,
but
we'll
also
add that in too. But
but you can also rope in the casual viewer with technical stuff. You don't. As long as you're not beating people over the head with it.
True.
You can make it an interesting show. And there's no problem.
I
with
agree.
That.
Yeah.
So they need to work on that as well. So I'll watch it again. I would probably give the show, as it is, 2.75 out of 5 because it needs work, but it's got potential.
Yeah, I get that. For me, I'd probably give it a 3 out of 5. I think it's very neutral to a little bit better than neutral.
Yeah,
and I think it's got potential. And it's nice to see a beer show that's on, I don't know if you call Viceland a major network, but,
I would say extremely minor.
A decent size. No, like a network with potential. I'll put it that. I'll call Viceland that.
Which I am surprised, by the way, to see Vice partnering with AB InBev to do a show.
Yeah, I know.
Considering they are sort of the indie hipster channel.
True, yeah.
I mean, I realize they all need money. They need money to keep going, so I get it, but...
Yep.
And by the way, if you don't know the golden... Because they never mention AB explicitly throughout the show.
Right. Thundercast. Yeah.
They... Every so often, they'll like zoom in on a close-up of a keg that has the AB InBev logo emblazoned on it. So.
Yeah, I noticed that too, yeah.
But yeah, it's got potential. I was really disappointed in a lot of factors.
Yeah, me too.
And I think it's got a ways to go before it's stellar. I think it's a good first start.
Yeah.
I think it's got potential.
Yeah, it's a good first start. But first start. Well, we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
So if we don't die, we'll do another episode of this show.
If we don't get hit by lightning. I forgot to say we're actually out on the deck.
We should have been.
With metal rods in our hands.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Major thunderstorm coming through, but yeah. We're out there on the deck, of course.
Well, thanks for listening to episode 102 of Brew Bloods, the very special Beerland episode.
You're welcome, Plain Black Tea, Mark.
You're welcome, other black, non-black tea, graphic print tea, Dustin. Do us a favor, if you have any feedback on the show, you can email us at brewbloodshow@gmail.com, or you can call us at 469-573-BEER. It's 469-573-2337. Or you can always find us on Reddit, reddit.com/r/brewbloods.
Please upvote us.
We are on, please clap. We're on all the social networks, Tumblr, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And don't forget, we have the weekly Brews and News email that comes out every single Friday.
That's Mark's baby.
Most Fridays, at least when I'm not feeling lazy. It's a
when he doesn't feel lazy because I don't do anything with it.
It's a wrap up of the week's beer news, at least stuff that I find interesting.
Right.
And we will never ever sell your email address. I will. Also, do us a favor, and if you have a friend that likes podcasts, likes beer, point them our way. Tell them about Brew Bloods. We would appreciate it. That's the most important thing you should ever do.
Just point everything Mark's way.
Also, keep listening to us. But
yeah,
yourself.
exactly. That's the most important. Yeah.
So for Dustin, I'm Mark.
For Mark, I'm Dustin. Probes.
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 Double probes.
Probes.